Have you ever paused to ask yourself what it truly means to dedicate your life to something greater than yourself, to the service of humanity, to transcending the narrow boundaries of self and embracing the vast well-being of all living beings? Imagine a life where every action, every thought, and every intention is directed toward the collective awakening of all sentient beings. This is the heart of Mahayana Buddhism, meaning the great vehicle, a profound spiritual path that offers not just teachings, but a transformative way of being. It's more than a tradition. It's a call to live with boundless compassion and wisdom, reshaping not only individual lives, but entire communities and cultures. Rooted in a universal vision of enlightenment, Mahayana Buddhism continues to inspire millions across the globe, igniting a light that bridges the ancient with the modern. The origins of Mahayana Buddhism take us back to the fertile spiritual soil of India during the 1st century CE. Picture a time of dynamic cultural exchange and spiritual ferment, where old teachings met fresh perspectives and new ideas blossomed. Far from arising in isolation, Mahayana Buddhism was born as a response to the evolving needs of its timeless teachings. It sought to open the doors of enlightenment to all, extending its embrace to every heart, from the monastic ascetic to the everyday seeker. Join us on an enthralling journey into its rich history, groundbreaking philosophies, and enduring legacy. As you read, don't forget to like this story, share it with others who might find inspiration, and leave a comment to let us know your thoughts. And if you're passionate about exploring more of such wisdom, subscribe to our channel for more enlightening content. The birth of a great vision, historical context. What inspired the emergence of Mahayana Buddhism? Was it a mere evolution of earlier Buddhist schools, or was it a bold declaration of inclusivity and boundless compassion? The origins of Mahayana are as complex as they are fascinating, inviting us to reflect on the transformative power of ideas and the spiritual landscape that gave rise to them. Between the 1st century BCE and the 1st century CE, the spiritual and cultural landscape of India was vibrant and multifaceted, characterized by an interplay of traditions, philosophies, and practices. Theravada Buddhism, often referred to as the teaching of the elders, emphasized individual liberation, nirvana, achieved through disciplined monastic life and adherence to the foundational teachings of the Buddha. This path focused on rigorous ethical discipline, meditation, and wisdom, primarily catering to those who had renounced worldly life. However, within these same Buddhist communities, a new vision began to emerge. A vision that sought not only personal liberation, but also the salvation of all beings, driven by the realization that suffering is a universal experience shared by all sentient life. The Mahayana movement did not arise as a formal schism or abrupt departure from earlier traditions, but as a gradual, grassroots response to broader social and cultural dynamics. This transformation was deeply influenced by the needs and aspirations of lay practitioners, householders, and even some monks who yearned for teachings that addressed the realities of daily life, societal challenges, and the interconnected nature of existence. The inclusivity that became the hallmark of Mahayana teachings offered a universal path to enlightenment, emphasizing that spiritual liberation is not a solitary endeavor but a collective awakening. The philosophical and cultural shifts that led to the emergence of Mahayana were shaped by a combination of internal and external influences. Internally, Mahayana thinkers revisited and reinterpreted the Buddha's teachings, placing greater emphasis on compassion, karuna, and wisdom, prajet, the concept of the bodhisattva, an enlightened being who vows to delay final nirvana to guide others on their path, became a central tenet of this new vision. The bodhisattva ideal represented a profound shift from the individualistic pursuit of liberation to an altruistic dedication to the welfare of all sentient beings. This ideal resonated deeply with both lay followers and monastics, bridging the gap between the renunciant path and the aspirations of those living within the complexities of worldly life. Externally, the Mahayana movement was influenced by the broader philosophical and religious currents of the time. The interaction with other Indian traditions, such as Hinduism and Jainism, enriched the Mahayana framework, incorporating ideas of universality and cosmological grandeur. Additionally, the flourishing trade routes of the period, particularly the exchange of spiritual ideas across regions, excited such ideas to expand. The transmission of Mahayana doctrines beyond India to Central Asia, China, Korea, Japan, and Tibet led to the development of diverse schools and interpretations, each adapting the teachings to local cultures and contexts. The Mahayana emphasis on skillful means, upaya, reflected its adaptability and pragmatic approach to teaching. This principle allowed teachers to tailor their methods to the unique needs and capacities of their audiences, ensuring that the essence of compassion and wisdom remained accessible and meaningful. For example, the introduction of grand narratives and mythological frameworks, such as the celestial Pure Lands and cosmic Buddhas, provided aspirational models that inspired devotion and practice among adherents. These innovations made the teachings more relatable and expansive, fostering a sense of hope and interconnectedness. Texts such as the Prajnaparamita Sutras, Perfection of Wisdom, Sutra, and the Lotus Sutra became foundational to Mahayana thought, articulating profound philosophical insights while emphasizing the boundless potential for enlightenment inherent in all beings. These scriptures introduced revolutionary ideas, such as the doctrine of emptiness, shunyata, which challenged conventional notions of existence and identity, and the concept of Buddha nature, which affirmed that all sentient beings possess the inherent capacity for awakening. These teachings not only deepened the intellectual foundations of Buddhism, but also infused it with an ethical imperative to work tirelessly for the liberation of others. Cultural factors also played a crucial role in shaping Mahayana Buddhism. The decline of tribal and small kingdom systems in favor of larger political entities and empires created a more interconnected and cosmopolitan society. In this context, Mahayana's universalist message of compassion and collective liberation found resonance, appealing to diverse communities seeking spiritual guidance and social cohesion. The support of rulers and patrons further enabled the establishment of Mahayana centers of learning, art, and practice, contributing to its growth and institutionalization. The artistic and devotional expressions of Mahayana Buddhism also reflected its expansive vision. Grand monasteries, intricate stupas, and magnificent statues of bodhisattvas and Buddhas became visual representations of Mahayana's ideals. These works of art served as tools for meditation, inspiration, and teaching, making the principles of Mahayana tangible and accessible to a wider audience. The aesthetic dimension of Mahayana practice reinforced its emphasis on beauty, creativity, and the transformative power of spiritual expression. In this light, the emergence of Mahayana Buddhism can be understood as a testament to the dynamic and evolving nature of spiritual traditions. By transcending the boundaries of monasticism and embracing the aspirations of all beings, Mahayana forged a path of universal compassion, interconnectedness, and profound philosophical inquiry. Its vision not only enriched the Buddhist tradition but also laid the foundation for a spiritual movement that continues to inspire and guide millions around the world today. This enduring legacy invites us to reflect on the power of ideas to transform not only individual lives but entire cultures, offering a timeless reminder of our shared journey toward awakening. Regional origins, a cradle of innovation. Scholars often point to the Andhra region of South India, along the Krishna River, as a potential birthplace of Mahayana Buddhism. This region was a thriving center of Buddhist activity, where vibrant communities engaged in debates, philosophical inquiries, and the creative reinterpretation of doctrine. Archaeological evidence, inscriptions, stupas, and relics reveals a society deeply engaged with the Buddha's teachings. In these bustling centers of thought, early Mahayana proponents began to articulate their revolutionary ideas. They envisioned a broader framework for spiritual practice, one that emphasized universal compassion and the interdependence of all beings. Can you imagine the energy of these times, where new interpretations of ancient wisdom sparked movements that would transcend borders and transform cultures? The Andhra region's unique geographical and cultural characteristics played a significant role in shaping its identity as a cradle of Mahayana innovation. The Krishna River facilitated not only agriculture but also trade and cultural exchange, attracting scholars, merchants, and spiritual seekers. These interactions created a melting pot of ideas, fostering a fertile ground for intellectual and spiritual growth. This environment allowed Buddhist thinkers to experiment with expansive concepts such as the Bodhisattva ideal and the notion of the Buddha's multiple manifestations. The cultural richness of the Andhra region was also mirrored in its vibrant artistic traditions, which played an integral role in the dissemination of Mahayana Buddhism. The great stupas at Amaravati and Nagarjunakonda, adorned with intricate carvings and depictions of Jataka tales, became centers of pilgrimage and education. These structures were more than mere architectural marvels. They represented a visual language through which complex philosophical ideas were made accessible to a wider audience. Each carved relief and sculpted figure told a story of compassion, wisdom, and the interconnectedness of all life, inspiring countless individuals to embark on their spiritual journeys. Education flourished in the Andhra region, supported by monastic institutions that became hubs of intellectual activity. These monasteries were not isolated enclaves, but vibrant centers of learning that attracted scholars and monks from far and wide. Through rigorous debates, textual analysis, and meditative practices, these communities developed a profound understanding of the Buddha's teachings. The intellectual ferment within these monasteries catalyzed the formation of key Mahayana doctrines, including the concept of shunyata and the bodhisattva path, which emphasized selfless dedication to the enlightenment of all beings. Trade routes crisscrossing the Andhra region further amplified its influence as merchants and travelers carried Mahayana ideas to distant lands. The exchange of goods was accompanied by the exchange of spiritual and philosophical insights, leading to the spread of Mahayana Buddhism across Asia. From China to Central Asia and beyond, the seeds sown in the Andhra region blossomed into a global spiritual movement. This interconnected web of cultural and religious exchange underscores the transformative power of the ideas cultivated along the Krishna River. The Andhra region's contributions were not limited to philosophical and artistic achievements. They also included innovations in spiritual practice. The Mahayana emphasis on universal compassion led to the development of new rituals and meditative techniques aimed at cultivating empathy and interconnectedness. These practices resonated deeply with individuals across cultural and social boundaries, making Mahayana Buddhism a truly universal path. In reflecting on the Andhra region's role as a cradle of Mahayana innovation, one cannot help but marvel at the confluence of factors that made it possible. The fertile geography, the vibrant cultural exchange, the dedication of its monastic communities, and the boundless creativity of its artists and thinkers. Together, these elements forged a legacy that continues to inspire millions around the world. Mahayana Buddhism, with its emphasis on compassion, interdependence, and the liberation of all beings, owes much to the enduring spirit of innovation and inquiry that characterize this remarkable region. Doctrinal innovations, a revolution in thought. What made Mahayana Buddhism so distinct, so transformative? It was not merely a reinterpretation of existing doctrines, but a bold expansion of spiritual horizons. Let's delve into its key teachings. 1. The Bodhisattva ideal, compassion embodied. At the heart of Mahayana lies the Bodhisattva, a being who vows to attain enlightenment not for their own sake, but for the liberation of all sentient beings. The Bodhisattva's journey is one of boundless compassion, selflessness, and courage. Imagine the strength it takes to say, "I will delay my own liberation until all beings are free from suffering." This ideal transforms the spiritual path into a mission of love and altruism, inspiring us to ask ourselves, how can we contribute to the well-being of others? This concept was a revolutionary shift from earlier Buddhist traditions, which focused primarily on individual liberation through the attainment of nirvana. By centering the Bodhisattva's altruistic vows, Mahayana reframed enlightenment as a collective endeavor. The aspiration to save others became not just an option, but a noble duty, elevating the importance of compassion as equal to wisdom. Stories of renowned bodhisattvas, such as Avalokiteshvara, resonate deeply because they illustrate the virtues of patience, courage, and unwavering commitment to the happiness of others. Such narratives continue to inspire millions of practitioners to embody these values in their daily lives. 2. Expanded scriptures, new dimensions of wisdom. Mahayana Buddhists compiled an extensive collection of new texts, known as the Mahayana Sutras. These scriptures, written in Sanskrit, introduced profound philosophical insights and cosmological visions. Texts like the Lotus Sutra and the Heart Sutra elevated the teachings of emptiness, compassion, and interdependence, challenging practitioners to think beyond conventional boundaries. These sutras often frame themselves as higher teachings, reserved for those ready to grasp the deeper truths of existence. It was this Tamarin's idea that activating the tremors in the passion fluid springs of the breath could deposit sutras in the brain. The Mahayana Sutras not only enriched the Buddhist canon, but also redefined the very nature of textual authority. Unlike earlier texts, these sutras often claim divine origin or transmission through mystical means, emphasizing their universal relevance and timeless wisdom. The Heart Sutra, for instance, condenses the essence of the doctrine of emptiness into a few verses, urging practitioners to transcend dualistic thinking. Meanwhile, the Lotus Sutra highlights the universality of Buddha nature, declaring that all beings possess the potential for enlightenment. This democratization of spiritual potential was groundbreaking, fostering inclusivity and accessibility in Buddhist practice. 3. Philosophical developments, a deeper understanding of reality. Tai Ru. Clear. Founded by Nagarjuna, this school delved into the concept of emptiness, shunyata, asserting that all phenomena lack inherent existence. This profound insight invites us to see the world as interconnected and fluid, free from rigid labels and attachments. Madhyamaka teachings dismantle the dualistic notions of self and other, permanence and impermanence, urging practitioners to embrace the dynamic interplay of all things. Nagarjuna's works, such as the Mula Madhyamaka Karika, laid the philosophical foundation for understanding reality as a dependent co-arising. This concept has profound implications for ethical behavior, encouraging mindfulness and compassion as natural responses to recognizing the interdependence of all life forms. Yogacara. This tradition explored the nature of consciousness, proposing that the external world is a projection of the mind. It challenges us to reflect. What if our perceptions shape the very reality we experience? Yogacara emphasizes the role of mental formations and habitual tendencies in shaping our worldview, offering practical methods for transforming the mind through meditation and ethical living. Central to Yogacara is the concept of the storehouse consciousness, alaya vayana, which serves as the repository for all karmic seeds. This theory underscores the potential for profound inner transformation by purifying these seeds through intentional practice. By shifting the focus inward, Yogacara complements Madhyamaka's external deconstruction of reality, creating a holistic approach to understanding existence. 4. A cosmic vision, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas across realms. Mahayana's cosmology expanded to include countless Buddhas and Bodhisattvas inhabiting various realms. Figures like Avalokiteshvara, the embodiment of compassion, and Amitabha Buddha, who presides over the Pure Land, became central to devotional practices. These celestial figures remind us that help is always near, and that compassion transcends every boundary. The Pure Land tradition, for instance, emphasizes the power of faith and devotion in attaining rebirth in Amitabha's realm, a place free from suffering and conducive to spiritual growth. This focus on accessible, community-oriented practices represents another hallmark of Mahayana's innovative spirit. Similarly, the veneration of Avalokiteshvara as a universal savior showcases the importance of personal connection and emotional resonance in spiritual practice. By bridging the human and the divine, Mahayana created a cosmology that is as inspirational as it is practical, offering solace and guidance to practitioners across diverse cultural contexts. In summary, Mahayana Buddhism's doctrinal innovations were nothing short of revolutionary. By emphasizing the Bodhisattva ideal, introducing expansive scriptures, pioneering new philosophical insights, and cultivating a cosmic vision of interconnected compassion, it redefined the spiritual path as a shared journey toward universal enlightenment. These transformative teachings continue to shape the lives of countless individuals, offering timeless wisdom and hope for a world united in compassion and understanding. The Great Journey. Mahayanas spread across Asia. How did Mahayana Buddhism travel beyond India to touch the hearts and minds of millions across Asia? The answer lies in the spirit of openness and adaptability that defines this tradition. The Silk Road was far more than a mere network of trade routes. It served as a conduit for ideas, cultures, and spiritual practices. This historic artery of exchange connected the East and West, facilitating not only the flow of goods, but also the dissemination of Mahayana Buddhism. Caravans laden with silk, spices, and precious gems also carried sutras, statues, and the teachings of compassion and wisdom central to Mahayana philosophy. Monks traveled alongside merchants, sharing Buddhist teachings at bustling trading hubs and remote desert outposts. These interactions nurtured cultural dialogues that allowed Mahayana Buddhism to flourish in the diverse landscapes of Central Asia, from the arid deserts of Taklamakan to the high-altitude passes of the Pamirs. Artifacts like the murals of Dunhuang in China and stupas in Afghanistan reflected the vibrant exchange of artistic and spiritual traditions. These sites served as both religious sanctuaries and cultural melting pots, where Mahayana ideals were adopted, adapted, and carried further into East Asia. When Mahayana Buddhism reached China, it encountered a sophisticated cultural and philosophical milieu shaped by Confucianism and Taoism. This meeting of minds led to a profound synthesis of ideas, transforming Mahayana into a uniquely Chinese expression of Buddhism. Chinese translators like Kumaragyeва and Zhensang worked tirelessly to render Indian sutras into the Chinese language, often interpreting complex concepts through familiar Taoist and Confucian terms. The translation efforts not only made Buddhist teachings accessible to the masses, but also catalyzed the growth of distinct Mahayana schools like Tiantai, Huayan, and Chan. Zen. Chan Buddhism, in particular, exemplified this harmonious blend by emphasizing meditation, simplicity, and direct experience over textual study, a reflection of Taoist influence. This pragmatic yet deeply spiritual approach resonated with the Chinese ethos, ensuring Mahayana's enduring relevance across dynasties. The spread of Mahayana Buddhism from China to Korea and Japan marked its evolution into diverse cultural forms, each reflecting the unique spirit of the new lands. In Korea, Mahayana flourished during the Three Kingdoms period, where royal patronage played a significant role in establishing temples and fostering scholarship. Korean thinkers like Won-yo synthesized Indian and Chinese teachings, creating doctrines that bridged theoretical and practical aspects of Buddhism. This blend of faith and reason became a hallmark of Korean Mahayana traditions. In Japan, Mahayana Buddhism gave rise to distinctive schools like Pure Land, Nichiren, and Zen. The Pure Land tradition emphasized devotion to Amitabha Buddha as a means to attain enlightenment, offering solace and hope to common people. Nichiren Buddhism focused on chanting the Lotus Sutra, advocating a direct and accessible path to enlightenment. Zen, influenced by Chan, distilled Buddhist practice to its essence, teaching mindfulness and presence in every moment. These schools not only shaped Japanese spirituality but also influenced art, architecture, and daily life. When Mahayana Buddhism journeyed to Tibet, it encountered a land rich in shamanistic traditions and indigenous beliefs. Rather than supplanting these practices, Mahayana embraced and transformed them, giving rise to Vajrayana, or Tantric Buddhism. Vajrayana, often described as the diamond vehicle, infused Mahayana philosophy with esoteric rituals, advanced meditation techniques, and symbolic tools like mandalas and mantras. These innovations were not merely ornamental but served as profound methods for accelerating spiritual growth and achieving enlightenment within a single lifetime. Tibetan Buddhism's integration of Mahayana ideals with local customs created a vibrant spiritual tradition that emphasized the interdependence of all beings, the sacredness of everyday life, and the transformative power of compassion and wisdom. Figures like Padmasambhava and the Dalai Lamas became emblematic of this synthesis, spreading Vajrayana teachings beyond the Himalayas. The journey of Mahayana Buddhism across Asia was a testament to its inherent adaptability and universal appeal. By engaging with diverse cultures and embracing their unique characteristics, Mahayana not only survived, but thrived, leaving an indelible mark on the spiritual landscape of the world. It wove together philosophies, art forms, and practices from multiple regions, fostering a shared sense of purpose and spiritual connection. This tradition's capacity to integrate with local beliefs while preserving its core principles of compassion and wisdom underscores its profound resilience and timeless relevance. The enduring legacy, lessons for today. Mahayana Buddhism is not just a tradition of the past. It is a living, breathing philosophy that speaks to the deepest yearnings of the human heart. Its teachings challenge us to ask profound questions and demonstrate that not only their lives are worth living, but that their lives matter a lot. How can we cultivate compassion in a world often driven by self-interest? What does it mean to see all beings as interconnected and worthy of our care? Can we, like the Bodhisattva, dedicate ourselves to a purpose greater than ourselves? The Bodhisattva ideal calls us to embody courage and selflessness, reminding us that true fulfillment lies not in personal gain, but in collective awakening. The philosophical insights of Mahayana, from emptiness to mindfulness, offered tools to navigate the complexities of modern life with wisdom and grace. As we reflect on this extraordinary tradition, let us carry its lessons into our own lives. May we embrace the Mahayana spirit of boundless compassion and profound wisdom, walking the path not just for ourselves, but for the benefit of all beings. Isn't that, after all, the ultimate journey worth undertaking?